Last night, there was a spectacular confession from Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. He admitted that the US government, under significant pressure and influence, forced him and Facebook to massively censor information during the entire pandemic and on other critical and sensitive topics. How crazy is that? Now everything is really coming out. And that's why we're going to take a look at this explosive confession from Zuckerberg. Let's get started. Last night, the massive censorship on various topics worldwide was exposed, and indeed, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg made a huge confession and asked the whole world for forgiveness. This is really shocking and shows not only how deeply the EU and Germany absolutely engage in censorship practices, but also how severely the USA absolutely violates our fundamental rights and undermines free speech. Focus wrote, "I regret our behavior, Mark Zuckerberg. The US government pressured Meta to censor C content." Mark Zuckerberg recently revealed a letter to the Judiciary Committee, officially stating in a statement that the Biden administration pressured Meta to censor content. Reuters.com reports this, and we will take a look at this letter to the US Judiciary, and I will translate immediately. So here you can now see the letter from Mark Zuckerberg, and of course it goes to the US Judiciary, the House of Representatives, and so on and so forth. At the beginning there's a bit of introductory blah blah, but it starts here where he writes, "In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our team for months to censor certain content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our team when we didn't agree." So he writes that in 2021, the Biden administration from the White House repeatedly instructed the team to censor C content, even if it was just satire and humor. And it caused a lot of frustration, and they did not agree with it, in fact. Indeed. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take down content. We own the decision, including the serial changes we made to our enforcement. In the wake of this pressure, I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of the new information, we wouldn't make today, like I said, to our team. At the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standard due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we are ready to push back if something like this happens again. And here he says, he strongly believes that all the immense pressure from the US government was completely and utterly wrong, and he deeply regrets not going public with it more. Furthermore, he says that with the brand new information that has now come to light about C, by which he indeed means all the lies that have been exposed, he would not act the same way as before. He says he absolutely and entirely regrets not sticking to his free speech standard, and he says that today he would never do it again in any way at all. But my dear viewers, this is not the only case, because there was a second instance where Facebook was massively censored due to the government. He further writes, in a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation involving the Biden family. In the lead up to the 2020 election, which we saw in the New York Post story reporting on alleged corruption involving the Democratic presidential nominee Biden's family. We sent that story to the fact-checkers for Rio and Tampere, demoting it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted this story. We changed our policies and processes to ensure that it doesn't happen again. We will no longer be tempted to moat things in the risk while waiting for fact-checkers. So he says there was a second situation, and I reported on it extensively at the time, where the FBI warned about misinformation from Russia, which involved the Biden family and all the corruption, where Hunter Biden, the son of President Biden, was involved. You remember the story with the Biden laptop and so on. and which had a significant and massive impact on the US elections in 2020. The FBI warned that false information was circulating, and that's why Facebook suppressed it, censored it, handed it over to fact-checkers, and censored it for as long as they did. Of course, the fact-checkers took an extra long time until the US elections were over. And here too, Mark Zuckerberg says he regrets this massive censorship and he will never do it again. He will never again suppress such information and wait for any fact-checkers, especially if the fact-checkers indeed come from the government. So it's pretty crazy that what we all said back then, that all this corruption and scandal around the Biden family is indeed the reality and not Russian misinformation. Then Mark Zuckerberg confirms here again, and these were not just misinformation in 2001, but it was, as mentioned, censored again at the request of the US government and even the FBI. And that is really, really shocking. And in conclusion, he writes, apart from content moderation, I want to address the contribution. Am I doing the last circle to support elections? Infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure local elections across the country had the resources they needed to help people vote safely during the global pandemic. I made this convoy the Clan Edges. They were designed to be non-panel spread across urban and rural communities, still despite the analysis I've seen contradicting. I know that some people believe this work benefits our party over the other. My goal is to be neutral and not play a role on one side or another, or to even appear to be playing a role. So I don't plan on making a similar contribution to the cycle. Back then, there was also massive criticism of Mark Zuckerberg for interfering in the US elections, both through all the donations he made and through the censorship. And Mark Zuckerberg deeply regrets this as well. He says he will never do it again, and he will never interfere in an election campaign again. And that's pretty intense because you have to consider Mark Zuckerberg is the CEO and founder of Facebook and Meta, and he is admitting to massive censorship and significant interference in the elections, and he deeply regrets it now, rightly so, and he will never do it again. And I have to say, I think it's really good that Mark Zuckerberg has now gone public with this and that he admits it was a big mistake. And there are many speculations about why he is doing this, whether he realizes that he has really broken with the Democrats, meaning Biden administration, and sees how much mess they are making and is now switching to the Trump camp. There are also rumors that there are more leaks and that there are more whistleblowers and he wants to get ahead of it all. But these are all still rumors. I need to clarify that. In any case, I think it's good that he is now going public with this and showing the whole world how corrupt our entire government is. It's really incredibly shocking what is going on there.